So that,
Interesting timer you had us going on.
all right. Little status. This is actually, for some reason, I didn't get that set. This is the final week of sprint 39. We start development sprint 40 tomorrow. We do our planning today. These are the development areas that we have been working in. And we'll continue to work in some of those, and some of those will be done. The active discovery items were an eligibility certification, pre-screening, and application content, welcome page, assessments, employment credentials. Employment credentials outcomes went out. That requirements document went out yesterday. And then there's the other ones. We'll continue to work on some of these throughout. So that's the status. Today, we're going to jump into a new UAT session. We'll start today, actually, you'll start actually into it tomorrow. We're moving it over to the UAT environment today. So we'll have to test that and make sure that's all good. But we're going to go through step by step exactly how to look at that UAT environment, how to test, how to respond, and where it's at, and all the information for you to look at the ETPL training program development. So this is for new programs. This will be, or all programs, this will be maintained. These programs will be maintained by a provider. Sometimes they'll be called upon for our ETPL coordinator to assist, but also those go to review process for the local ETPL coordinator, and they also go to DCO's ETPL coordinator. So it's really good that we get good input from you, because you know your providers and their training programs and what you're looking at even from a career planner perspective, to see the information that's in that training program definition. So we are going to get into it here. Okay. Just so a little bit reminder here, and this is another link we'll continue to give out. This link here gets you to the project site. And on the project site, there is a full list of resources if you haven't been there. And you'll notice UAT Release 6 Cycle 1 UAT Guide is at the top of this. You can click right into it there. It was added yesterday. And that's what I'm going to go off of to explain the training program user acceptance testing. Okay, let me get here. This is the actual guide right here, what's it going to look like when you hit that. We'll be sure to send you links to all this, but this will give you the information you need to need for what you're UATing, okay? What's the UAT feature sets? Okay. User acceptance test, release 6, cycle 1. Will be deployed into SIUAT environment on Thursday afternoon. It is currently being deployed. It'll be available starting tomorrow. And we'll email out to say, hey, green light, it's ready to go. There's no security constraints for this environment. You've experienced that before. You hit a link, you go to it, there is a login button. I'll show you that, but you do not have to hit that login button. I'll show you exactly where you can get into the parts that you need to look at. It's important to not enter any personal identifiable information, because it's a non-secure environment. I don't think there's too much PII involved in provider training plans, so I don't think that's going to be a big deal here, because we're not working with customers. But I just want to make sure you know that and keep that as a reminder. The purpose of Release 6 is to review the ETPL training program, add, edit, and view features. Okay. Release six cycle one expectations, homework areas for this week. Your UAT, so these are homework areas. In other words, you're on your own. You're expected to, we ask you, invite you, and expect you to participate in this. If you have other colleagues in your local area that need to be also involved in this, don't hesitate to share this with them. Okay. We'll give you a place to report issues. I'll talk about that. And of course, they can get into it. Your UAT task will focus on the following key areas listed below. The new training program, and those are the pages, okay? And you'll see each of those pages. There'll be navigation through those pages. There'll be things like um, warnings and stuff like that to say, hey, this needs to be completed in a certain way. So we'll be really anxious to see your reaction to the training program. I have demoed or I have shown it in a document before, but now you get to get your hands on it. Okay, there's like 11 pages to the training program. We'd like to get this first cycle done for this release. We'd like to have all that feedback in by Friday, September 12th, so that I can make sure I get all the responses in and back and ready for us to talk about the following week. As normal, some of those comments and issues you have will be defects. Some of them will be potentially, some of them will be enhancements. Some of those will just be issues. And so some of those will get, of course, the defects will get put right back into our ticket management or our DevOps so that we can work on those and make sure that if we need a second round cycle or later on when you look at it, we got those fixed. That right here is the link to your UAT site, which will get you to this page. We'll talk about that in a second. Reporting issues. Please document any issues, bugs, or enhancement requests you identify in our shared notebook. That's the link to the shared notebook. It looks like this, okay? Shared notebooks look like this. You've been into them before. This particular one is release 6. I put closed in front of the other ones so you don't get confused. Here's an example of how you would put in a report or an issue, document it, give a screenshot if you can. I will report back to you, usually in red, so that I can tell you, oh, we logged this as an issue, or maybe it's just a usage description that I got to give you more context around. This is release 6 cycle 1. There is a locate and view, which we'll talk about in an ad training program, and then we'll get into each of the pages. Okay. So in all these areas, if you're in program outcomes, you would come to program outcomes and log your issue, and you'll be able to see other folks' issue. If you went back and looked at some of this, you can see how these are past UAT sessions. And I'm sure most of you are very aware and have participated in UAT cycles before. Okay. All right. When logging your events, you should document this information as you're completing your UAT work. First page of the notebook, I just said, was labeled with the example. You'll find all the sections, be concise but detailed. If multiple issues arise in one area, please log each of those separately. Please add your name or initials to your entry. That way I can get back to you or I can address you one-on-one if I need more information on your response. If you have any issues accessing any of this, if you even say, hey, I remembered you, we were supposed to do this, I forgot everything you told me, don't hesitate to email us. There's Olivia and Lynette and myself's email addresses right there. All right. What's our expectations? Test thoroughly, ensure you navigate through all the functions and features of these areas. Pay attention to any discrepancies between your expected results and the actual results. If you have to, go back to this document. You can use this document. You'll see down below. Has all kinds of screenshots in it. If you have, you can use this document as a guide to step through, or you can use it as a reference. So however you want to do it. Be detail oriented, please. When reporting issues, provide as much context as possible, including steps to reproduce the issue, screenshots or recordings if possible, if you got that software on your machine, browser and or device used during testing, actual outcomes versus expected outcomes. I don't have it in here, but data is also important. What kind of data did you put in there? Keystrokes, those kinds of things are nice too. You know, I was in this particular field, I tabbed and I was expected to go to the next field and it took me out of the page. Those kinds of things. Or I hit enter and I didn't expect it to go out of the page or something like that. So keystrokes can be important also. Feedback categories. The SIU team will categorize your findings into three possible classifications. You don't have to worry about categorizing these. We'll categorize them as bugs. And just so you know that when the system does not perform as expected or the system is not performing according to the requirements. So in other words, it doesn't have to blow up on you, but it may not be performing according to the requirements that we wrote and got signed off. Then the bug will be reported. We'll track that. We'll fix that. We'll retest that. If it's an issue, then that's usually when the system is performing according to the requirements, but the user feels that the requirement was not captured correctly, or now the user feels like the requirement is just not working as expected. This is recorded as an issue. We'll put this in, we'll track this, and we'll prioritize a change for that. We might even have to have a requirements document update, which we probably would have. We may have that as a change request. Enhancements, once we're in UAT, the user recognized an area could be improved. We always want to know that. If it's difficult to use or you got another idea, we're always welcome to hearing that. We'll also log these as issues in our system, but we'll also, and we'll tag these as enhancements and um, we'll discuss those with the stakeholders and the ownership of the product to make sure we know where those can go in and how those are prioritized. Think like the end user. Okay, so now just like I said at the beginning, just to remind you that the user for most of this is the provider. Okay, that's going to be kind of new to IWDS 2.0. Today, all input is put in by, well, no, it's not true. You give accounts to providers, so same area. I forgot to tell you that, but think like a provider, but also like someone that might review when you're viewing the information on a training program. Also think like this information was collected and I'm a career planner and I'm sure career planners are going to be able to see the training program definition too. So that's important. Be specific and thorough. Like we said, include specific steps, expected outcome, actual results. Provide context. Always give context. We can't say that as much as we need to because we the reason you are doing this is because we are too close to this product. We know how it should work, and we may not see something that's very obvious to you of how it's working. All right, so here is the areas for add edit. When you get down in here, and I'm not gonna go through each one of these because I want to do it in the application. Um, you're going to start a new program at this tab page, which is on the entity management or the entity location. You can go either way to that. And I'll show you how that looks um, by going either way. And what I mean either way is you can see all the training programs for that are connected to an entity for all the locations, or you can go to a specific location and see just those that are for that location, which is a little different than IWDS today, because IWDS today, you go into entity, you select a location, and then you go to training plans, and it turns around and gives you all the training plans for all the locations. So it kind of ignores the fact that you selected a specific location. So you can go either way, okay? You'll select, in order to add a training program, you'll select this add button. In order to edit one, you can just go into this. It'll take you to view, and then you can edit. So I'll show you that. But basically, this is the format. On the left, there's a navigation, has the program of study, outcomes, instructional hours. This particular one is not a registered apprenticeship because it would have a registered apprenticeship page here, or a pre-apprenticeship program, which would have a pre-apprenticeship pages. Okay. This page here will have to be filled out before the first save. In other words, before this program can be saved, we need this information. After that, you can go in and out of it as you please, and you can go next or previous through the pages, or you'll be able to hit the links on the left and go directly to a page. But when you first come in and this is pre-filled out, then you'll have to get that filled out before you can save that program. Okay, I'm not going to walk through this document. It's boring, but it also tells you exactly the elements on each page and what to expect. So I do want it available for you to come back to. Okay, that is the notebook we talked about. And oops, let me get to here. Okay, so when you hit this link that I talked about up here, this link right here, test apps, online worknet.com, IWDS preview, it will take you, well, looks like this is the link. It will take you to this page. Okay. I'll get a little bit bigger for now, and then we can come back smaller if we want. Okay. You can ignore this login button. In fact, just to tell you, this will say UAT. So you're actually going to um, see that as UAT. Okay. Whenever you get the link, it will not be this because it'll be UAT environment. That's why that's different. Okay. But you don't have to hit that. You're going to go over to management tools, and the best way is to go into entity management. Okay. Okay. So in here, as you know, you'll get presented with the first page of those will get dumped into here. And just to remind you, you can filter by name or location, entity type, not LWIA yet, because I don't think we have these tied to LWIAs, but we might have. But so that's you hit the reset button, it resets it, clears this out. But for example, we're going to work with this example here, this 160 Driving Academy, and we'll put in a CDL truck training program. Okay, so this is the entity, 160 Driving Academy. I can go directly to that by pressing that button or that link. Then this is the details, and the details, just a reminder here, there's your locations there. There's several locations for 160 Driving Academy. There's contacts associated with those different locations. And um, I'm going to go into, I guess, any of these work. Let me see what we have here as locations. I'm going to go into this Irving Park. Okay, now training programs are shown here. We don't have any. So actives are here, pending here, inactive here. We do not have any training programs set up for this yet, but I'm just going to use this as an example. And so when I come in here, I can be on any of these, but I'm going to add a training program. Now, I can add it right here at the entity level, because down here, we can select the location right here. It's kind of hard to see, but we can select that location right here. We're going to select this location right here, by the way. Okay. All right. So the first thing you do is type in program name. And the program name I'm going to put in here is CDL truck driving. So I'm going to put in here CDL truck driving 160. Okay. Program description. I'm going to copy this and paste it because I have it up over here. I'm going to put in this as the description. The website is, I'm going to copy that too off this form. And then the year, I believe this goes way back, but let me see here. If I've got that information, really doesn't matter from this example, but let me find out. I don't see it right now. So let's just go with 2003. Okay, this is not a registered apprenticeship program. It's not a pre-apprenticeship program. So it's neither of those two. It's all others. And you'll notice a couple things here. These links are not usable right now, but it put in program costs here because for each, if it's not a registered apprenticeship or apprenticeship, then it'll have a cost page. Okay. All right. Zip code, we can enter it here. Zip code for this is 490205. And I can just hit add and it puts it in there like that. I could also put in with a dot, or I could also search and come down here. Transportation, ground transportation, and truck driving. I could have done it that way also, and it would have done the same thing. Okay, so you can search for it, or if you know it, you can just type it in, and you do not have to type the period in. Okay, like we said, we checked that one, and that's all we have to do to get this program established. So I could save and exit, and it would be there, or I can hit next, and that's there. And so now you'll see that these are all selectable. And we're on the program outcomes because that's the page. Now, we will be getting in these outcomes, but let me explain how this works. What are the outcomes of this program of study? As many outcomes as apply. If you hit add outcomes, now right now we have just a few things in there, but this is going to be upgraded very soon. We're going to have these upgraded very soon. So okay, and then this is we all recognize credential. This program prepares for the outcome, but does not provide the outcome with the program. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, first of all, that means that, for example, you could have a license. It could even be this thing that we're doing, but you don't get the license from the program. You just get the training and are able to sit for the license. So you can still put that in, but and this has nothing to do with our program, I realize it, but you can still put that in and you can actually select it as prepares for, and it'll show up as prepares for. Okay, so the program could provide you that. A good example is you might get for a registered nurse or something like that, you might get a bachelor's degree is provided by the provider, and the actual registered nurse certificate or certification is something that prepares you for, because it may not come out of that. You may not have that at the end of the graduation of that course or whatever, or the training program. Okay. Hope that's kind of understanding.
Al, you do have one question in the chat.
Yep, I'm going there. Thank you very much. I'm going there right now. When entering program name, will this need to be consistent in some way or match training institution name of training? Yes, it is. It needs to be consistent with that and match that. You might want to, when that's why that particular one is probably, if you went to their site, this one I have is probably called CDL Truck Driving 160 if we went to their site. But yes, it does need to be consistent. The description should match the course description probably on their site. we are looking in the future to interface and get some of this information in from other places, but we haven't got that connected yet, so it's important that that's the same.
I just ask, on that particular thing, just as a follow-up. Currently in IWDS right now, when we go in and search for a training, um, you click on, you go in and you search for, Rock Valley College, and then it shows all the trainings, right, that are approved. So
Yep.
once it's on that ETPL and it's approved, that whatever training name is in the catalog of the training institution, that should be the name that's already on our in IWATS, right?
Yes.
So would we then not be able to somehow be able to pick the training name once we pick the entity in this new system?
I'm a little confused here. If it's a new
Yeah, I
training
don't think
program,
yet, because we're not hooked up with any other IBHE, ICCB, anyone else. So we're still reliant on the provider to manually enter the name of the program. So that's why we're going, when we look at it, the ETPL coordinators look at it, they should make sure that it matches what's on their website and in their printed catalog. Hopefully one day, if we can get coordinated with other entities, that we'll be able to pull that information in for you.
yes. Now, agreed. We're trying to get that in the context of getting this out and the first version out, but if we don't get that link to those, we're not going to be able to bring that in for you. But I'm a little confused when you said you can just pick it. If you're talking about existing training programs that are already in here, I don't understand what you're meaning. You can just pick it.
Oh, I think I might have missed both because like right now, like if somebody says, hey, is this training something that you can improve? Is this, owned by LWEA 3? I can go in and I can go to the, uh, approved trainings in IWADS. And I can click on it and then I can look up the training institution. And then at that training institution, it shows all of the trainings that's approved or not approved at those training institutions, right? Active,
Yep.
inactive, it shows their status,
Right.
and their certifications, and all that. And so then all those training programs have a specific name associated with it. So I was assuming that is the same name of the training which exists in the course catalog of the training institution. So then you wouldn't be able to pick it, but you'd be able to see what the actual name of the training is, and then be able to transfer that in to this screen.
Right. You could if you talked about going over to their site, but what I'm saying is when you come in, I don't know if you missed that. If you come in and you look at the entity, before you search for entity, then you listed locations, then you went to training programs. Here, if you select the entity and go to this tab, you'll see training programs. You'll see active list here. There's none here yet. You'll see pending, which is the one I'm working on right now. And you'll see past ones or inactive ones.
Oh, okay. So this is the equivalent of what's in. Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
I think that's where hopefully I answered that correctly. So if you, let's go back through one more time, just because if you're confused, some other people are confused. If I went to entity management and I searched entities, I could search, 160 search, and I would find 160 drive. Well, that's interesting, but let me get a little bit more. Let me search again. 160 Driving Academy, right? It was also on the first screen. If I select that entity, I could go to a location, okay, or like I could go to location Irving, the one I just put that on. I could go to this location and look at training programs, and I would also see that. It's pending now. You might have a whole list at that location for that location, or I could come from the entity itself, look at training programs, and also see the whole list for all the locations. So there they are. You're just not seeing it yet because I don't have any built, right?
Yep, yep. Yeah,
Okay,
that was
all
the
right.
confusion, because I don't do this portion of it as much at all. And so I was trying to figure out what was,
You
but
bet.
I
So they'll
understand.
all be there, and let's go back in here. This is a view mode. We're going to go back and edit, and we're going to go back to outcomes is where we were. And here, this program will prepare the student for a license or certification. This is just a one more question. If it does, is the license or certification required to be employed in the field? Yes. Has the program been approved by licensed body? Yes. So if that's true, you add that document, for example, Secretary of State maybe, or I think it is, for this particular um, um, certificate or whatever. And you just select the file like we have before in the past and upload it. Does a provider pay for the license or certification testing, and is that cost included in the program costs? Okay, so it may be included in the course or the, a good example is that if somebody takes like goes to project management course to get their PMP and they purchase the course, they could very well be sitting for the exam at the end of that course as part of the cost. Or I'm sure there's other ones. So yes or no there. And does a training provider assist in students' job placement? If you say yes, then they describe. If they don't assist, then they don't describe. Okay. We go to next is costs. Okay. There has to be something filled out in costs. You can't just go forward without filling something out. So, um, we could have a tuition, maybe no books, then you have to put 0. Maybe there's a testing fee of $50. I'm sorry, fee of $50. Maybe there's a testing fee of 0, and then there could be other expenses. If you type something in other expenses besides 0, it'll force you. So if I said 10, then it's going to say, hey, you need to provide a description for that. If I type in 0, it won't make me. So total cost, it adds up. They're at the bottom. It talks about the cost above. And then this sentence is going to be changed, but for each cost listed above, describe and detail the procedures. What does that mean? That means like, where do I get my books? Or maybe there's lab fees or something else. Maybe there's tests. Where do I pay the provider those fees, or do I get those from the provider, or do I get them out at file at bookstore, whatever. Down here, types of financial assistance available. We check all that apply. You can check one or more. You can either, if there's special aid, like special scholarships or something, you could type that into here and you can describe that. The last description box on here is what are the program or class cancellation or refund policies. So that might be something like within the first week, you can cancel and get full money back. Maybe, after that it's prorated, or maybe you don't get any money back at all. Okay. All right. So that's program costs. Instructional hours. There's 2 methods to report instructional hours. It could be a credit hour program, or it could be a clock contact hour based program. If it's a credit hour program, it's going to ask how many credit hours to complete the course. Maybe it's, in this particular case, maybe it's 12, I don't know, maybe it's 5, 4. This is not a credit hour program. How many hours total instruction? Maybe it's, um, you know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Anyway, or this particular program, how many clock contact hour based, how many clock, maybe it's a 40 hour per week program, and maybe it just takes 2 weeks to complete. Okay, so that would be the 2 different ways to report the instructional hours, and it talks down here about what clock hours means. The next page is entry level requirements. Okay. The top part is a single selection. You could have a high school diploma or equivalent. Associate's degree may be needed, a bachelor's degree may be needed, or none of the above. This particular one, I don't think there is anything involved there. Are there prerequisites for this? I don't think there would be, unless it's maybe we'd say yes, and maybe it's I'm not so sure, driver's license. I don't know if that goes there or not. Are there any exams? Maybe there is a drug and alcohol screening check. Okay. And then describe the application procedure for this program. Include any description of any documents, materials. Let's just say copy of driver's license. Okay. Believe it or not. Yeah, okay. All right. The next one is program offerings. So we have an in-person face-to-face, we have online, and we have hybrid. Let's take in-person face-to-face. We have potentially like full-time, part-time. And then that looks like, when I'm looking over at this, that looks like all there is to this one. And so that tells you how it's offered. The next page is ONET codes. And I could probably find it, but maybe I can find it in here. A little easier, 533032, just like the other one. We can do a 533032 and enter that code. Evidently, I didn't find it that way. Maybe I didn't have enough in there. Or maybe I read it wrong. So let's look 533032. That's not that way anymore. So let's go down here and look for it. Transportation, 5353 3. Could be this one, 032. I don't know why that didn't come up. Okay. And we can save that one. Okay. There might be other occupations that this, would cover in transportation. I don't know if CDL covers bus drivers or not, but that kind of a thing. Maybe more than one. You can put up to 6 in here. One is required. The next one is program performance. Program performance is if the training program provided tracked enrollment, completion, and credential attainment numbers for the students for the most recent year and the previous 3 program years, that'll be changed. Then they would select yes. Otherwise, they'd select no. They have to select something here. As you see, it says not selected. If they say yes, then it opens up this ability to add program years, the current and the most previous. They just go in here and add, if they want all 4 of those, and then they can type these in, or there will be a template that they can export and import if they have those somewhere else. The one we have here, the spreadsheet we have here, when you do it, it will work, but it's not the complete one that we're going to have later. But anyway, that's how you can enter. I mean, it's only, even for 4 years, it's only 12, 16 fields. So if they say no, then they do not have to, but it's going to be only for 1 year when it's approved. Okay. Assurance of certificates. This one here is basically self-attesting that you have facility of programs accessible to all people with disabilities, complies with non-discrimination. When you check that, you'll notice it checks all these, hoping it'll get their attention that they just said yes to all these. Does a provider acknowledge they are fully comply with the following additional provisions? Same thing, it'll check all those, okay? And that basically says, yeah, we'll do all that. And when you get down to here, you can get to review and submit. Basically, if you read this and acknowledge this and attest to this, you can put this in. It'll bring in a date. Now, what it's going to do, it will match when we get the login. It will have the username here, and that username typed in will have to match, or we're not going to allow it to go forward. Okay. This program is active. It will be listed on the eligible training provider list. That was on the first page. Just in case there's any time, which we don't know that there is, that a training program will be defined that is not supposed to be on ETPL, but it's just supposed to be defined. I don't know that we're going to have that, but we do have that capability. I think this should be okay. I think this is showing us something. Oh, there. Okay. Now, one more thing I want to show you before I submit this is there's this notes capability. This is available in edit mode and in review mode, but you can, the reviewer or the provider could add notes. This will be, now when this happens, once again, it'll give the author of this. Right now we're not logged in, so it's just showing that. It'll show the note. It'll show the status of the program at the time the note was put in, okay? It'll show when that note was created, all right? The person that put it in can actually edit or delete it, but no one else can. All right, so submit this. Let's see if we can submit this. Hopefully we can. It says successful. Once we submit it, it jumps back to view mode, view only mode. You should see all these green. And this is ready for review. Now, if I was a provider, I would not get this change status or even this edit at this time because I submitted it, but I would not get this change status capability. That's for the reviewer, okay? This is not, you don't have to, we're not going through review UAT right now. We're just going through just to here. And then if, I'm going to go back to the entity. So now this is a pending state approval truck driving program. Okay. And I believe this is not connected yet because this will probably be pending the LWIB approval first because this is this is not an online and it's a local provider. Okay. All right. Let me look over here. Any questions about how you navigate to this, how you're going to see these? I know one thing you're going to probably, I'm going to go back through this once again. If I go to, I'm going to go to, I want to go to one that I have in here, which is, you won't see an active one like this. Okay, this is a test one. So you're going to see empty here and you're going to probably go, I just entered this. Where did it go? Okay, well, it defaults to active because everybody wants to see the active programs. Pending is where it'll be at. So if I was back, let me go back one more time. If I go back to, let me just reset this because 160 is right at the top. If I go to here and go to training programs, you're going to say, whoa, I just submitted this. Where's it at? Don't forget this radio button. You're going to go to pending and there it is. Now, because it's open right now, there's no login and all that. This is the way you would edit it. You would go here to view it. When you come into it, you're in view mode. How do you know that? Well, this is gray. You see this little icon, looks like a no icon or whatever. That is because you can't do anything in here while it's in view only mode, except you can go to notes and we can add notes. Okay. All right. So we don't have to go into edit to add a note. That's important if there's conversation back and forth between a reviewer and a provider, or a reviewer at the local level and a state level. Okay. And then if I want to edit it, just go right now, you can just go in and edit it. You can edit this and then resubmit it or save it. So questions about navigation. What is the purpose of notes section and where would that info appear? It only appears here. So so the notes section is, you know, we want the ability for you to, you know, write a note that's like, if you were, and I think it will really be apparent when you are, if you were a reviewer at a local or state level, and you were setting this up to needs more info. One of our statuses is reviewed. Let me see if I could even find it. The status, I might be able to find that for you. Reviewed and, hold on. Request for clarification, okay? If there's a request for clarification, it might be nice to put that clarification information in that note. Otherwise, you're going to have to call somebody, or you're going to have to send an email and say, reference back to this. So it just might be nice to have that note capability. Hope that answers your Crystal. Now
Yeah,
we have talked, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, that does. And you were talking after I wrote that, you were talking about the notes section too.
Oh, okay.
Is
Okay.
there going to be right now the way it is? You communicate with your providers. Everything is in writing.
Yeah, you
So,
can, I mean, you can communicate your providers still how you do it today if you want, or if you need to in
well,
writing.
I mean, that's because you need the paper trail of what they're telling you. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
that so you have all of that stuff. So, uh, is that
Do
still
you think that
going
you would
to?
want to print notes? Is that what you're trying to get to?
Yeah, like if you needed to, because you're having some sort of back and forth, because otherwise, you're putting in, if you're maintaining files as you're going through and you're doing ETPL coordination, you've got printouts basically of emails, or you have them saved electronically or whatever, so
Hmm.
that you can track all of that stuff and you know what the last thing was that you told them and so forth. So if the notes function is for that type of purpose.
Sure. And it's, you know, understand this notes is permanent. Like you're not going to have, um, it's not going to go away, and it's going to be tied directly to this training program.
Uh-huh.
Now, that when you say, you know, things like, well, we need to print those out or stuff like that, that's not, you know, necessarily our call, because that has to do with your policy, um,
Sure.
you know, and things, I think some of that will change in the future, because you're also going to have this ability, um, this right here at the entity level, you're going to have uh, this whole library of documents that you can, you know, that has been uploaded, like that one. It's not in here yet, but connected yet. And in fact, I got to write that down. We uploaded a document, if you remember, for that training program. It should
Yeah.
appear here. Okay. I got to make sure I write that down. Okay. Because I don't see it here, and I know I uploaded one. So, but that list of documents will also be here for when you want to upload stuff, or they upload. And then this other note capability will also always be there. Okay.
Okay.
So
Because
you'll have to decide in policy if that's still necessary to go
that
outside
brings
of the system and go into email and then go print the email. That's kind of your call. And
because that brings up another point then. If this is supposed to be that providers can enter their own information, which they can do now, they just
yes,
most
they
of them
can.
don't like to do that.
Yeah.
Because IWDS is a little confusing. So they tend to call their local person to have them data enter it for them. I've done that I don't know how many times.
Yep.
But are there going to be info bubbles everywhere telling them
Yes.
what kind of documentation they're supposed to upload? Because a lot of them, whoever's in charge of Intrigate might not
Yes.
know what they're
So,
supposed to lay their hands on to prove that they're accredited or to prove that they've got some kind of agreement with DOL, or who knows what it is.
no, that's a very good point. On my to-do list, which is long, I got to go through the training program and the ETPL pre-screen and make sure capture all the places we want info buttons and get those in here. It's not a big deal in the system because we have a way to do that really easily. But I still need to do it. So
Yeah.
you're correct. Yes.
And then I had the same kind of question that Robert did in the chat, that because now you get there's a way for us to look in IWDS to see whether or not someone has submitted something, and it will show up. There's like literally a pending section and you can go in there and see, but I have to remind myself every week I go in and check it. So is this going to pop up somewhere for the ETPL coordinator locally to know that there's something in there for them to review?
Yes.
Or
Yes, we're going to have that. We're going to have that on like a dashboard. We're also going to have, for that particular role, we're also going to have notifications, emails sent when that happens. So to the provider, hey, you've submitted your program, or to the provider, hey, there is a new note in your program, so you may want to check it, and a link back to that, and then notifications to the coordinator according to who that is that's doing the review, or coordinators that says, hey, there's a new program. Hey, this program got edited. Hey, this program is up for recertification and got submitted, right? For programs that exist already and they're expiring. So yeah, we'll have notifications throughout that. There'll be notifications within the system and then notifications through email.
okay, and all the providers who are already in IWDS, that's all going to come in as part of the data transfer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All the training programs that are active, and I'm not sure how many that are inactive, but because we'll have to bring some over that attach to
Sure.
some of our customers, right?
Right. Oh yeah, for sure.
So, but they'll come over in our data migration. Yes.
Okay. So then the other thing that I had this, I'm just kind of thinking about everything that would occur to me as I'm talking to providers. There has been the capability in IWDS for them to enter program information for the last 3 program years for quite some time.
Yes.
They don't do it, So is there some sort of behind the scenes conversation going on with our partners that they're going to be encouraged to enter that kind of information because they've had
I'm
the
gonna
opportunity to
tap
do
on
it?
Laura. I'm gonna tap on Laura for that. I think there is. Laura, can you respond to that for me?
Because we
Yeah.
tried to make them do it before and then they didn't. So we backtracked.
Right. We have to, because we can't get the waiver any longer for the all student data, we have to implement this now. We have had conversations with ICCB, who already provide us with that information, and with IBHE. Nina Tagman is aware of that, and we're talking about how we might be able to gather some of that information outside of the system and import it into the system. Until then, they will have to the providers will have to give us that performance information if they have it at the initial. If they don't, then we're just going to give them a year's approval. And then when it's time for them to do their continued eligibility, then they will have to provide us with the performance data, and we will, the all student information. We will have a spreadsheet that the providers will have to complete and then upload into that program outcome screen that I was showing. And then we will use that and have IDES do the data match on it so that we can report on that. And then that will then backfill into the display into the system, so that they can see what their outcomes are. And it will then also display on the eligible training provider list for the public. So We're
And
not,
we'll
it's going to
probably
be written in
have-
policy that they have to provide it to us because we don't have that option for the waiver any longer. So,
Right.
right.
And we'll probably have, well, we will have that available um, out here, a link to performance. So they don't have to go in and do some kind of edit to the training program just to add the performance. So
Right. So
the
then the next
performance screen
follow-up,
will come up, will be able to come up by itself. In fact, there's, a place for it already. That's on these active programs. You're going to see a link here that says,
right.
I might be able to show you that actually.
So that then leads to another question that long time ago in IWDS, you could actually pull performance information for individual programs.
Yes,
And then that
we'll be able to do that. We'll be able to
whatever.
do that in reporting.
So it is intended then that in the new system, there will be a performance evaluation process for all training programs that you would be able to have access to and have data and actually do something with it. And then of course, training provider policy to go along with that somewhere on e-policy.
Correct. And, right now, the state board is not set up any of like minimum performance measures, training outcomes for training providers as of yet. But if they do, then that will also be incorporated into the system where, if there's a minimum that the IWIB sets, that we're going to have to make sure that we incorporate that as part of the review process. Now, is that performance hooked up, Al? So if you hit that performance icon there.
Yeah, I go straight to that
Okay.
page.
Okay, go to that page, yeah.
Yep.
And it'll display once we have those
And
spreadsheets
we'll be able
uploaded.
to see that performance, yeah, once we get those in there. Let me look at this other question. The total cost screen, should uniforms, tools, equipment, physicals, vaccination, drug screens, et cetera, or would this be all documented in the other with descriptions of each? Let's take a look at that real quick. That screen. Okay, and you have, I would assume uniform tools, equipment, physical vaccinations, drug screens, et cetera, would be over here and other and listed in here. That's my assumption, right?
So this is where it gets kind of dicey, right? Because many of the training institutions currently in the, IWDS, ATPL, they put a price down and they break it down as what's in IWDS right now, but it's often off. The estimated cost of training is off than what they actually give us when we send them a document to the school to give us an estimation of cost. So we have something called a mapping and projection form. And so they take that to the training institution, and the training institution then they map out all the classes that they have, right? In order to complete from beginning to end, all the classes. And then they put that in through each term or semester, by term or semester by semester. And then they put the cost of those classes that's listed, the training related items, things like that, all in that quarter or semester or term. So we know how much it's going to cost for that term, right? When we add that all up, it never is anywhere really close to what they put in this screen in IWDS currently. And they often leave out stuff like vaccinations, drug screens, tools. Like for aviation, the tools is very important because it's like $1,200–$1,600 for tools. That's right up front. And they don't put those things in. So is there going to be some sort of thing where, if they put other expenses, somehow where they would be able to be, in essence, required to document all those items? And I'm assuming that when training institution says this is how much the training is going to cost, it's going to cost $20,000, that would include any kind of testing fees or any other kind of fees or costs
never find my
associated with
shit.
that training that's not included in the training, if that makes sense, because it's like an addition, right? So for instance, some of the short-term training is like MCSE, certifications, right? Microsoft certifications. You get done with that certification and then you have a separate cost after that training to take that testing
Yes.
and certification. But often, I mean, it's not part of the tuition and it's part of, and so then they would have to put it in the other, but if,
No, well, yeah, so that specific thing you're talking about, you would have to follow down through here.
okay,
And for example, does this program prepare the student for license certification that your MSc, whatever it does? Is it required? May not be required to be employed in the field, but has the program been approved? Yes. Does the provider pay for the license or certification testing? And is that cost included in the program? That's just your specific example though, but right here it would do that.
right. So then where would that cost show up?
On that
Because
program
obviously it's not
cost.
going to show up on the previous page, right?
Well, cost page, I think it should show up here.
Okay, so if you mark yes, there's additional costs on that next page. You would have to have documented it here in the previous page you were at, cost page you were on, right?
I mean, I would think you'd want to. You may find situations where they're not doing it that way. And the review process, I would say,
Okay.
is this all?
Right. So
Is this,
and that's the other part, because the ETPL coordinator is not a training expert, right? And so like they don't know all the costs and what's included in the trainings and what is should be included in the trainings. I mean, like, and so they, is there going to be like certain kind of template questions
well,
that everyone is going to have to
it seems like a
ask?
good review item that I would say, if I was you and I had one cost identified in the program definition, and then it was way different when we actually sent a student to that training, then I think I would put a note in that training program and that came up for review, or I'd call him even before review and say, we need to get the exact cost. The other thing is you might do is, before review or interview, update the cost, right? It's like if you know that it costs more, then the ETPL coordinator should probably go update the cost.
Okay.
Because it's kind of a management issue of the whole process of review. We talked about review being in performance. Are we gonna we're gonna we're gonna review people based on performance? Yeah, we should. Are we gonna review people based upon what they say is not what's happening? Yeah, we should. But you're gonna have to make a note of that when it happens. Otherwise, you won't, obviously remember that. So if you take you jump into that, I get what you're talking about because it's real easy. It's like a lot of things, right? There's some, you take, well, I take my car to get the oil changed and they say, oh, it's only $59, but, or whatever, and then all of a sudden, well, I'm not gonna let you out of here without an oil filter, or I'm not gonna let you out of here without an air filter, just a bunch of stuff, and it's like, oh, well, that's kind of interesting and not, false advertising, whatever. But it's like, I take note of that. You take note of that. Well, it doesn't mean what they're saying it is. Now, the good thing is here, we got a place to put this. We got a place to come back and say, sorry, that's not your cost because we just sent somebody to your program. We need to update this cost. Now you can suggest that they update it, which is probably what I would do first, or you update it and say this is what it actually costs to send a train. That's kind of a management issue, really,
Yeah,
because they gotta say what the truth.
let me
We
kind of
have
chime in
three
on this.
participants with their hands raised. They've been
Oh.
raised for a while.
Okay, go ahead.
Laura put a comment in the chat about we can put some info bubbles on these if you think it would be helpful. And we can add informational text explaining the importance of like, what are the total costs of this program of study? Why is it important you get this accurate? We need to be able to obligate funds. So we could add some additional context for them to understand.
Yep.
I think Laura had her hand raised, then we'll go to Omar, then Rory, then Robert.
My hand was raised just to point that out, to make sure that if you have any suggestions for any terminology, any info bubbles, any type of informational text that the training provider needs to be aware of, please ensure that all costs are, recorded, and this will be the extent of, you know, if it doesn't match in future, then we'll have to reevaluate your program. I mean, all those kind of things. Anything like that that you think that would be help to eliminate the issues that you're talking about, I think that we would be willing to include those in our info bubbles and in our text here. So we definitely want to hear that from you. So let us know.
You bet.
Go ahead,
Next.
Omar.
Yes, on that point, I think the issue is about reimbursing for tools and stuff like that we face when it comes to unclear breakdown of program cost, because sometimes they just put in tuition costs and that's it, everything else is zero. I know there's a cap, but they managed to do it under the 8,000 cap that we have. But then we're being asked to provide tools, to provide uniforms, what have you, as support services. Perhaps as a suggestion, when we have those that one screen that had the toggle buttons on the program, I think it's the program outcomes. Perhaps we can add one item here is, does this program require tools, uniforms, or what have you? If that's a yes, then the next page where program costs is broken down, it's mandatory to fill out that field. They can't put a
That's a good
zero.
idea. That's a good idea.
And if not, that means that program does not require any tools or supplies or any materials. So we're not being called upon to provide tools or uniforms after the fact that this voucher was issued.
Who's next?
Rory, and then Robert.
Hi everyone, and I'm so sorry. We had a local in-house apprenticeship integrated business services team meeting. I had to be in on at 9:30. It ran long, so I'm just kind of getting in late here, and I know you guys are getting close to the end of the time. So I'll watch the recording to get myself brought up to speed, mostly on what was covered before. But just really quick, so are these the provider screens? Are these are screens when you look up a training program? How training programs are going to get entered. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then, yeah, I can't remember if this came up like during one of an IWDS earlier discovery meeting a while ago, or I might even be thinking of like from a year before when there was a ETPL and a work group for the Illinois WorkNet's WIOA provider search tool and database and ProTrain or something like that. They were talking about like that and getting input on fields, but I know at some point it was asked about being able to add possibly, and maybe not, I guess, or maybe there'll be a place where they can, I guess, just put it in the describe, but for like tests, like more boxes or line items for them to put, other costs or fees, or at least to make sure that they're describing them. There's a lot of like computer training programs, for example, they could be getting 2 or 3 perhaps licensures or certificates. So we have an in-house, it's like Excel, but we're converting it into a fillable PDF. But we have an Excel version we like because it automatically will add it if they just type it in. But I mean, we list up to like 5 rows for, we don't have to get that crazy in IWDS, but we have a thing for program applications, like they can list up to 5 certifications, CompTIA A+, CompTIA Network Plus, ITIL, something like that. it'll add up all of them so that we know what to put in IWDS as like the total cost for tests. So I didn't know if that was something that was, you know, if these are the areas where we can put the costs. And then the other question I had is that comes up sometimes, providers like our community college, for example, they've explained it to me 100 times, and I don't know, I kind of get it, but sometimes I always have to ask them to re-explain it. But they have a testing center on site. They're like a Pearson VUE, and they used to be, authorized testing site. Like they can offer, like they can proctor exams for like Microsoft Office and project management, PMP. But for some reason, they can't, for some of them, they can't use our WIOA vouchers. Like the school, we can't pay for it, so we have to reimburse the students. So the question comes up, sorry, what I was getting at is sometimes should we put, sometimes we do it in the program description for some of those college programs where we'll say there is a cost for, a certain exam or test or something, but it will not be included in the ITA amount for the voucher. So the question we get sometimes is when it talks about the provider or us on behalf of the provider, when we're entering the program costs, should we be enter? So if there are other expenses, like I think Omar mentioned, sometimes you have to reimburse them for tools because they have to get tools or supplies, like for welding programs, that maybe not at the college bookstore, they can't get them, and it's not at a vendor that we have a vendor agreement with. If it does have to be reimbursed, would this be more, I guess, just like local area by local area, just kind of our discretion? Like, should we have them put the other expenses, like to put the cost of those things in there, even if they might not be able to be covered by an ITA voucher, like we would have to reimburse the student or, but it's sometimes, I guess it helps to put the expenses in there just to make the student or a WIOA career planner, if they're looking at this program potentially for a job seeker, it just lets them know what to expect. So that was kind of just something to throw out there. It doesn't have to be answered right now, but just something to throw out there.
And Robert.
Okay, this is fun conversation. I just now put something else in the chat field. Answer to that question. I told our provider, whoever come in, they got to list everything that they want. I kind of did a breakdown. When it comes to tuition, if you're taking this class, you tell me exactly all that is needed for this class to be completed. Now, what we were just saying about purchasing other stuff outside of it, now they need to let us know they need all of this. That provider needs to provide everything for that client. No going outside, because then you're setting up a bad habit. Don't do those things. If they want this person to come in there and do the training, you break it down just like this. Everything that is required for that tuition, for that training, they list it. Fee, okay, you add this to the fee. Like I said, I just put something in the chat. This is what I send out to all of my providers. I put down the policy, the procedure, everything, so they know if the ONET code is not low growth or something, if it's in the red, your program ain't going to get approved. I want to make it sure that clear that WIOA is not a guarantee. It's not that we have to do things. Trade is a guarantee program. We got to mostly do stuff with trade. So what I'm trying to say here, you break down everything. So the books, the fee, the test, all of that. And so when we issue out that ITA, we have the total cost for that program for that participant. Okay, you're going for this training. They're going to provide you everything and going to cost you X amount of dollars. And that should be it. Once you start sending somebody to a place and that place is not providing all the necessary tools, then it's shame on them, because why are you sending them there? You don't do that. You send them someplace that's going to get everything they need, because if they're doing the training, they should have everything they need for the training. I just wanted to say that. I'm out.
Good, thanks. Anyone else on that? All right, I'm going to get out of this. We'll give you an email when this is green lighted, and you'll be able to start your process. It should be by tomorrow morning. I think Taylor or someone has something real quick, and if we got any more time, I want to give it to them. So thanks.
Thanks, Al. I'm gonna jump in here. This is Olivia. Taylor was gonna potentially cover for me. I had a pediatric dentist appointment, so I wasn't sure when I was gonna be back from doing that with my son, but I made it. So I'm gonna go over this with you guys today. We have some text we want to get in front of you that we want to use. So whenever a career planner invites a customer to complete the pre-screening on their own, or I'm going to show you another email that's very similar to this one, but a little different. We're also creating like a self-service way that will have a welcome page where a customer can request to do a pre-screen. When they do that through completing a very simple form, they'll get an email with a link for them to be able to do the pre-screening. So it's we have one that a career planner would send if they invite them through IWDS. Or we have another email we'll look at that a customer will get after they submit the self-service request to complete the pre-screening. And I want to look at those emails with you guys and just see if you guys have any concerns about any of the language that we're using. So the first one is an email when a career planner invites the customer to complete the pre-screen. They might be in the local office, get added to the IWDS system. Maybe they were receiving some self-services. And then they decided, okay, now I'm at a spot where WIO is the next step for me. They're in that office and the front desk person or the career planner is like, great, let's send you the pre-screening to complete, or they could give them the QR code or a link to the welcome page to do the self-service. But in this example, they're gonna go ahead and just invite them to streamline the process. And the customer will get an email that says, take the next steps towards your career and education goals. And then it'll say hi, and then insert their first name, whatever the first name is on the customer record we have. And it's going to say, we're excited to help you take your next step towards reaching your career goals. You have been invited by, and then it's going to put the local office name that sent that invitation, just to kind of relate that back to the customer's experience. We don't want them to think this is junk. So we thought, putting that local office that they talked to in the email will help them realize like, oh yes, that was from this interaction that I had. So you've been invited by local office to complete a short pre-screening form. Your next step is to complete a quick 5 to 10 minute pre-screening form to get started. So we want to let them know about how long we think it'd take. Why take 5 minutes today? Because this form helps us understand your strengths, interests, and any support you might need so we can connect you with the best resources and opportunity. And then it's going to say, start your pre-screening form now, and it'll be a link that they can click. And then it'll say, or copy and paste this link into your browser, and then it'll provide the full URL. So this will just be like these words linked, but also give them the option to see the full URL and copy and paste that. That is a best practice when sending out emails. Then it's going to say you can return to this form at any time within the next XX days. We're looking at 90. These pre-screenings will eventually expire if they don't touch them. We don't want to have a bunch of pre-screening forms just sitting out there. So after 90 days is what we're thinking, and we'll update the email once we have that solidified. If they have not touched the pre-screening, then if they click that link, it's going to let them know it's expired and provide the link for where they can go to the welcome form to submit a new request. That way we don't have a bunch of like dead data just lingering out there for the end of time. We can keep that clean. So it's going to say you can return to this anytime within the next XX days and pick up where you left off. Have questions or need help? Find your local American Job Center. We're here to help. Let's take the next step together. Any concerns with this language? Okay. I am going to have Kelly post this as a PDF on the partner guide, so you guys can look at this outside of this meeting. And if you do have any comments or questions or tweaks you would like to see to it, you can definitely send us an email. I put up here, we reviewed this with several subject matter experts. And it's written to be customer centered and asset based, and we're trying to keep it within a 5th, 6th grade reading level to make sure that it's something that all of our user base can engage with. Paul, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just a quick question on the verbiage seems fine, but you said the name that is this high name, and then the work local office name, that's going to be pulled in automatically. So I was trying to make the connection how that works, because if let's say we went out to an event and we said, hey, we're going to send you this email, they're not in the system at all.
Well, this is if you invite them through the system. So
Okay.
they would be a customer record in the system, and you would invite them. You would like go into Olivia Miller's customer profile and click like start pre-screen, and then there's a radio button. Do you want to send them an email to start it, or do you want to do it with them? And this would
Okay.
be if you click send them an email. Now
So
we
they have a
also,
customer record in
yes,
Illinois WorkNet,
in IWDS.
in IWDS. Okay.
Yes. We
But
also have the option for a welcome page. This is more of our self-service. So they're not a customer record in IWDS.
oh, okay.
And
Okay.
they would go to our general welcome page, or you guys could send out like a mass email to like an event you went to with like, if you're interested in learning more, you can go to our welcome page. The welcome page is going to give them information about services that could be provided, both self and staff assisted. It'll have a little welcome video. We're working on building that welcome page. And then within that welcome page, there's going to be a form that says, all right, like, are you ready to take the next step? Complete the pre-screening, and they're going to put like their name, date of birth, email address, and optional phone number. Just some basic information, and click submit. And when they do that, they're not a customer record in IWDS, but we will create a pre-record in IWDS with that submit data and email them this email that they can complete the pre-screening. It'll be through IWDS, but only attached to a pre-record because they're not a full customer record in IWDS yet. And one of the things they'll pick when they submit that form is like, how can we help you today? And it'll be finding a new job, training for a new career, or furthering your education. They can pick multiple of those. So when they go that route, they're going to get an email that says, let's get started with, and then whatever ones they picked will show in the subject. So it'll be very customized to the submit form that they did. And then I am missing right here, this part, it'll say I first name. So whatever first name they put in that submit form will show here, and it'll say, we're excited to support you as you take the next steps too. And then again, this customized section that is based on what they put in the submit form. So we're excited to help you take the next steps to find a new job, or if they pick train for a career, whatever they picked would show here. So we're taking out the local office connection there because they didn't do it through a local office. They did it through the submit form. So we're making it more personable to that experience. And then it's like literally identical from here on out. It just says, it's going to take 5 to 10 minutes. Why take 5 minutes? All the links are the same. That top section and the subject will just be a little different based on if they're engaging with it through like a career planner, inviting them as a customer record in IWDS versus them doing it through the self-service submit form on the welcome page the public welcome page we set up. Does that kind of clear things up?
Yes. Thank you.
We have some messages coming in. This would not be after they attend the orientation session. This would be way before. So they're completing a pre-screening to see if they're even eligible for WIOA. If they go through the pre-screen, and everything looks good, then we will give them a link to watch an orientation and complete an application. So this would be prior to an orientation. And it will have like a welcome video. So it won't be as detailed as our orientation video, but there will be a welcome video that they can engage with on the welcome page. And then I also want to note, we are currently exploring how we can send text messages. So if somebody completes the self-service form, or if they're in IWDS and we have a phone number, or if they provide that phone number, we want to look at how can we text them that link. There is a lot of groundwork that has to be set up to facilitate businesses texting people. It can be done. We're looking at the setup of all of that and how it would be managed. It is very limited in the number of characters you can send. So we're thinking we'd send something like, "Thanks for getting started, Olivia. Begin your pre-screening here. We're here to help you. Just reach out." And then embedded within all the pages of the pre-screening will be like, "I need in-person help" button that they can click on, and it'll be the quick search to easily find their local American Job Center. Andy has started some discovery work on that, so we'll bring this feature, this like find local help feature, in front of you guys in a couple of discovery sessions. But it didn't quite fit where sticking into 160 characters kind of really minimizes what we're able to put in here. And then we also have, I'll go real quick because I know we're right at time. We also have some updated welcome text that we're going to put on the first page of the pre-screening. This will be included in the document that we send out and put on the page. You guys are welcome to provide suggestions. And once we get this in UAT, you can review there. One of the words that we wanted to check with you on is oh, never mind. This is kind of what we have. We wanted to let them know that if they're not ready to apply, that it's okay. They can still visit their local American Job Center anytime for free help with job search, writing your resume, or using a computer to explore jobs and more. And wanted to get your guys' feedback kind of on this section and make sure that sounds okay. Like you don't think that would have people coming in with expectations that you can't fill.
That might be a good survey questions to have the members of this group ask their staff at their at their WorkNet centers, because I know I can't speak for everybody. I know some have we used to do like 30-minute resume speed rounds, we used to call them, kind of, but it just depends on availability of staff. So some might offer individual one-on-one resume assistance, and some might do workshops. Like we've moved more toward like workshops for resumes, and they're free and they don't have to be eligible. I mean, they can still attend. So I guess that you could still say, help with, writing your resume or preparing your resume, or, because technically it still is getting help with the resume, but I don't know if anyone would read into that. And, if you have the expectation or the conclusion that it would be one-on-one or individual, and, but I might be splitting hairs on that. I just didn't know if that might be a question to ask everybody else.
Yeah, so I think that we will make this a homework assignment. So when Kelly sends out our follow-up email, we'll include this document with the information, the text we plan on using, for you guys to run past some of your staff that you think would be good to get their eyes on this and review. And then if you're good with it, perfect. If you do have any concerns or recommendations, if you guys within the next week could reach back out to Kelly with those recommendations, we can make sure to incorporate them into this language before we get it updated in the pre-screening.
This
And
is
we'll send
good.
an
I had a quick question. I'm sorry. When you
Okay.
have the Illinois work name, you got the Illinois Department of Commerce. can each local area put their logo on what you have on the top page if you go up? All the way up. What? Oh yeah, you see how you got Illinois WorkNet, Illinois Department of Commerce. If you send this out, I like when everything, all local areas is using the same thing because it makes it easier for clients to understand. Anywhere you go, you're going to get the same information. So would we be able to put our icon right next to Illinois WorkNet, Illinois Department of Commerce, right in that little section?
So this is just the header of my document. This will not be on that won't be on the email. The email will just be this content right here. I will need to talk to our developers to see if we can have how that would work, because it'll be in an emailing system. So we would have to have you guys all put your logos in entity management where your office information is housed. And then could do something similar where we're pulling custom logos based off the like how we customize some of this into the email. If that's something we want to explore, I think there are ways to do that. But let me talk to my developers before we start looking at any expansions to see if images are something they can customize in an email just like we can text.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions before I let you go? I know we're 5 minutes over, so I want to be mindful of everybody's time. All right, well, I appreciate you guys so much staying on a little late to go through this, and we'll get this out for your review and homework, and we'll also let you know when UAT is ready. I hope you all have a great rest of your Thursday.